Nick Thompson, vet here, the gut doctor. And this evening we're going to be talking about vaccines and dogs and pups. There's a lot of interesting stuff to get through. I've produced some very simple slides because a lot of people find this topic quite daunting and confusing. So we're going to go through some very basic immunology, and I'm very happy to go through any questions at the end. It's a relatively short presentation deliberately such that we can go through questions at the end. But just to allow everybody to come, just going to have a little chat, just say hello. I hope you're well. As you see, the sun, if I go back like that, the sun is shining and it's absolutely beautiful out there. It's a lovely, crisp and it's very slightly autumnal afternoon in England. Greetings to everybody from all over the world. We have American friends joining us. We have people in Australia and Europe. And so really lovely to have you along for the ride to talk about vaccines, dogs and vaccines. It's a can of worms, and we're gonna go into it as much as we can over this time. If you need to contact me personally, then please do. My email is Nick Thompson, NickThompson at holisticvet, holisticvet.co.uk. Or you can go to and speak to the guys at Vermex. That's verm-x.com. Talk to those guys and they will be able to get in touch with me as well. So if you've got any queries, if you've got pups, if you've got mature dogs, if you've got old dogs, if you've got sick dogs, if you've got dogs on medication, if you run a boarding facility and you want to have a chat about the implications of vaccination, titre testing, all these things, then you're very welcome to get in touch. Just want to say, as usual, big thank you to the guys at Vermex for allowing me to put time aside to get my thoughts together and produce some slides to hopefully make this interesting, fascinating topic as easy to get your head around as possible. I've been studying immunology. First started at college. We did physiology in first year at vet college. That was in 1986. Can you believe it? That's when I started. I did a BSc in pathological sciences, which involved molecular biology, parasitology, immunology, vaccinology, virology, all the bacteriology, lots of the scientific ologies. And so this is a subject very close to my heart. It's very, very important. Tony Constantine, greetings from the People's Republic of South Yorkshire. Tony, fabulous, good man. It's lovely to have you here. Robert Summers is here, and Robert. Let me put some stuff up from Robert. I own a vaccine injured dog. Oh, right. Okay. Well, right. We're jumping in the deep end there. For my Max, I used to know Chris Day, marvellous man. He's departed now. He sorted him out using homeopathics and a probiotic and prebiotic and a natural diet. He's sadly missed. Robert, you're absolutely right. Chris Day was one of my early tutors at the Royal London Homeopathic Hospital, and he opened my eyes to the beauty and the power of homeopathic treatment in all sorts of disease processes, but very much in vaccines, vaccine injury. The homeopaths call vaccine injury vaccinosis. It is a condition which is derived, a negative condition which is derived from homeopathy. So, Robert, great to have you along with us today. Okay, so I'm going to. Laura is officiating, and I'm going to do the usual thing. I think things should be fine. We had so many problems in the early days. I'm still getting nervous doing this, but I think we should be fine. I'm going to go down there, and then I'm going to go across to here. And hopefully she's going to give me a thumbs up if you can hear what I'm saying and you can see the screen. The picture I chose was there because it's cute. It's a puppy with one of those ice doodahs that you put on your head, which is, I just chose it because it was cute and it was a puppy. But actually, it's quite interesting in terms of Laura gives a thumbs up, so that's great. Thank you, Laura. In that, if your dog is due for a vaccine and they are not healthy, then even the vaccine manufacturers say, and I quote from the data sheets, and you can find the data sheets online on Google. They say, "Oh, these words: only vaccinate healthy dogs." 4 words, or words to that effect. Only vaccinate healthy dogs. I see dogs who are on Apoquel being vaccinated. I'm very uncomfortable with that because if they're on Apoquel for itch, for example, it means they're not healthy. Yeah, they are having a drug which is managing a disease, an immune mediated disease process. And so for me, they are not healthy. If you've got a dog who is, runny nose, runny eyes, itchy, is anything but the picture of health, I personally would be very reluctant to think about vaccinating that animal because vaccines induce, if you like, an artificial infection in order to provoke the immune system. And if the immune system is busy already with, itchy skin disease or IBD type bowel problems, or there is, bad eyes, bad ears, anal gland problems, whatever it may be, it means the immune system is fighting in another corner of the body. And you come along with this artificial disease that goes in the scruff of the dog's neck and possibly geographically distracts the immune system, but from a biochemical and from a metabolic point of view, immensely distracts the body from normal disease fighting processes. And I think that is potentially, for me, a recipe for disaster. This is worth talking with your vet about. They may have a different perspective, and you can discuss the implications of that with them. Obviously, they know your dog, they know you, and they will be able to advise you specifically. But just generally speaking, if you're fighting a war way up in the north of the country and you get attacked from the south of the country, then you're going to have to redeploy and split your defenses. And you, using that analogy, will be a weaker fighting force in the north and in the south of that country because your fighting forces are deployed in different areas. And I think that holds with vaccinating sick dogs. So that photo, which was chosen for its cuteness value, is actually telling us quite a lot. 4 words, guys: only vaccinate healthy dogs. That's really, really important for me. Everybody knows it, and vets are taught it at vet college. It's just that the definition of healthy can be skewed when a disease process, an itchy dog, for example, is being treated by Apoquel, Cytopoint, ongoing steroid, whatever it might be. So just a word to the wise, just so that you make sure that you do have that accurate conversation with your vets. Let's jump into things. The watchword for tonight, the go-to website, I've put a link there, is the vaccination guidelines from the WSAVA. WSAVA is the World Small Animal Veterinary Association. They are the overarching body who set down guidelines for vets all over the globe. And these are the guidelines. They're very up to date. These are the 2024 guidelines for vaccination of dogs and cats. Okay, if you haven't got a cat, that's fine. That means you don't need to read half the report. But it's only, I don't know, it's probably 30 pages long, and it is written in a very layperson friendly tone. It hasn't got a lot of scientific gobbledygook jargon, so very well worth finding that. I would suggest print it out. Drugs very rationally and very minimally. I always say to clients, the best drug is the drug that you don't have to use. And the thing about vaccines is that once they are in, they will have impact on the body, on the immune system for days, months, years following. That's why we use them, you know. They last for a very long time. For example, I got MMR when I was a kid, when it was first introduced, and haven't had it since. Haven't had that vaccine since. Why is that? It's because it is still possibly doing a job within my body. I would preferred if I hadn't had it, and I would preferred to have had measles, which in the healthy European well-fed child is often a very mild disease. Okay, you do hear about these nightmare cases, but that's often associated with malnutrition, lack of vitamin A, lack of vitamin D, things like this. And so the whole area is fraught with speculation, opinion. So be careful where you get your information from for vaccination. So this is what we're basing our thoughts on, and this is a quote from the WSAVA vaccine guideline group, VGG vaccine guideline group. And they state here, forgive me if I just read this out, but they say the vaccine guideline group supports the use of serological testing, that is titre testing, titre testing, from 20 weeks. You can't titre test reliably before a dog is 20 weeks of age. But they say they support the idea. So you may have a chat with your vet and they say, oh no, titre testing, load of rubbish. Possibly, but the vaccine guideline group, which is headed up by 4 internationally renowned vets and vet immunologists, they think it is a good idea. So you might want to just have that discussion with them. Getting back to what they're saying, the VGG supports the use of serological testing, blood testing from 20 weeks of age onwards to detect seroconversion. Seroconversion just means where the body recognizes the information within the vaccine and produces antibodies in order to protect from further real wild type infections. That's why you vaccinate, in order to protect from infectious disease. To CDV, that's canine distemper virus. We're going to talk about that in a second. Canine CAV, that's canine adenovirus adenovirus infection. Adenovirus causes hepatitis, canine hepatitis, and CPV is canine parvo virus. Okay, so CDV, distemper, CAV is adenovirus hepatitis, and CPV is parvo virus. These are the 3 diseases that we're going to be talking about today. I'd like to, Laura, talk next month, and I'll give you a recap at the end, about leptospirosis. vaccination, okay, because that's a whole other kettle of fish. But we will do that at another time. So they're saying they do support titre testing following vaccination for distemper, hepatitis, and parvo virus. And they helpfully say, and you can't see the tone of how this stuff is written. This can help confirm active immune protection in young animals. Yeah, so you get a new dog, so you get a rescue at 6 months of age. Shall we vaccinate? Shall we not? I know. Let's do a titre test. Yeah, it can to say what the immune status is of that young pup. It can be used in young adult animals. Say if they get to 15 months and you're thinking, shall we do the booster or shall we do a titre test? You can do the titre test at about 15 months, a year after the puppy shots, and can help to optimize revaccination intervals. Yeah, shall we repeat after a year? Shall we repeat distemper, hepatitis, and parvo after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever? It can help to tell you how much tiger you've got in your tank. And it is also Ron Schultz, who used to be one of the advisors, wonderful guy, looks like Father Christmas. He was a great advocate for using titre testing for outbreaks of, for example, distemper or parvovirus in the shelter situation. It means you can titre test every dog in the shelter, and those who have active antibodies don't need vaccination and will be much more resistant to getting the disease if there is an outbreak of disease within an enclosed shelter situation. They go on, the vaccine guideline group goes on to say vaccines should not be given needlessly. Okay, it's a very simple sentence, but I think it's very, very important in that very often the decision to vaccinate is decided using a calendar as opposed to using a physiological measurement, for example, titre testing. Yeah, so the dog a year down the line, they just vaccinate because it's a year later, or the 3 years down the line, they just vaccinate. And the thing about vaccination is, if you vaccinate, you put a needle in the scruff and you inject some vaccine into a dog, you cannot guarantee that dog has accepted and taken up and used the information you've given. And because 1 in 50 dogs is a non-responder to vaccinations. And so it's the only way to actually tell that the dog has taken that information contained in the vaccine and has done something constructive and protective with it is by taking a titre test. Okay, so I'm just going to say that again because it's very, very important. Vaccination using a syringe and needle is not a guarantee of immunization. Immunization means that you have developed a protective response in response to a vaccination. Okay, really, really important, which is why titre testing is basically just telling you how much petrol you've got in the tank, as opposed to guessing, oh, I've driven the car for 300 miles and the tank usually lasts 350. Therefore, I must have 50 miles left in the tank. That's a guess. Okay. What you need to do is you look at the dial on the dashboard and that'll tell you how much fuel you've got in the tank. Essentially, a titre test is like the fuel dial in the car, telling you how much fuel, how much protection you've got in that body. Going on to say, core vaccines should not be given any more frequently than necessary in adult animals. How do you tell? Answer, titre testing. You do the blood test in order to find out how often you need to vaccinate. Everything else is guesswork or just going by data sheets. There is an abundance. That's quite a big word for a scientific paper. There is an abundance of peer-reviewed published evidence showing that the duration of immunity, how long antibodies last, that is, provided by most modified live virus vaccines is many years. Now, in the previous iterations of these guidelines, they have said that even a single shot of distemper, hepatitis, and parvovirus can last many years and up to a lifetime. Yeah, they actually had those words in previous versions of these guidelines. Now that's been taken out, which is kind of interesting. I think, no, that's just me speculating cynically about the WSAVA working with vaccine manufacturers. So I'm not going to go there. But it is many years. They don't say it is 3 years, which is what many practitioners would say. You need your distemper, hepatitis, parvovirus every 3 years. Well, no, it could last 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. How do you tell? You do a titre test. It's as simple as that. That's it, guys. In a nutshell, that is our entire evening right there. But let's just go a little bit further, because this is a fascinating area. So just to emphasize another cute picture of a puppy, we're going to be talking about distemper, hepatitis, and parvo. So distemper is a disease. It was very big. We had an epidemic, if you like, in the UK and to a certain extent in Europe in the 70s, and that really electrified everybody against these diseases, and was a shot in the arm, if you like, for the vaccine industry. Okay, and they developed distemper viruses then, and parvovirus has always been around, and so they developed parvovirus vaccines as well. So distemper is what they used to call hard pad, can affect the nervous system, can affect behavior, can affect the skin. It's potentially really nasty, but it's very rare in the UK now. We are seeing it in some dogs who are imported, for example, from Romania. I'm sure there are other places, Cyprus, Ireland, what have you. But in the UK, it's found at a very low level in many places. For example, I will have dogs who haven't been vaccinated for distemper, who have had a titre test. Let's say they haven't been vaccinated for 6 years, 7 years or so, and they still have a distemper titre, and that's not because of the vaccine many years ago. It's because they do come across a very low level of distemper in the environment. Okay. Hepatitis is inflammation of the liver. Adenovirus is the virus that causes the hepatitis, and I can honestly say I've never seen adenovirus hepatitis in a dog in the UK in 33 years of practice. Doesn't mean it's not there, but I don't think it's very common. Parvovirus, however, is relative to the distemper and hepatitis is quite common, but it is to do with poverty and poor breeding conditions, poor housing conditions, and what have you. And so we're seeing it in very deprived inner cities and puppy farms and what have you. And just to say, we're going to be talking about leptospirosis in 4 weeks' time on the Gut Doctor. So looking forward to just sharing that. There would otherwise be too much information, and it's a slightly different story. So today we're going to do HPV, and in a month we're going to do the leptospirosis. Let's move on. Okay, so as far as puppies are concerned, we've don't panic. Okay, they say every time you show a graph or a formula in a lecture, you lose half your audience. Please bear with me. This is not half as complicated as it looks. So up on the y-axis, we've got the antibody titer. It goes 10, 80, 160 and what have you. Yeah, that's how much antibody you have in your blood. The higher it is, the better it is, the more defense you have. Anything over 80 is considered protective. That's that dotted line across from the 80. We've got protective antibody level. If you've got some, and it's above 10, but it's not quite at 80, that's called an interfering antibody level. In there will be some protection, but it won't possibly be full protection. Okay, so that's those two lines there. If we look along the x-axis, at weeks of age, we've got 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, and 20 weeks. At 20 weeks over here on the right-hand side, that is the time that you can do a titre test to see if you've not vaccinated. You can see if your pup has got any antibodies from exposure to wild type Parvo, for example. And some people will do that, and it's very valid. If we're looking at the weeks of age, we've got 6 weeks. Some vaccine, Novivac Parvo, I think you can give from 6 weeks of age. But if you go to the 8 weeks and look up, there's that dotted line, which takes you up to the blue double arrow, which says protected by MDA. MDA is maternally derived immunity. And so that means from 0 weeks of age to 8 weeks of age, most pups, and it is an average, but most pups will have good maternally derived immunity. That means that mum's antibodies will be transferred to the pup through blood and through milk, defending pups pretty well for the first 8 weeks or so. Some pups will have maternally derived immunity even up to 16 weeks of age. Okay, and that's that red line. Yeah, you start with stonking antibodies from mum, from the bitch, in the puppies, but it dwindles because it's not being produced by the pup. It's being given by mum. And that dwindles, and generally speaking, at about 8 weeks, you've still got protection, but it is reducing. And from 8 weeks to 16 weeks, it reduces gradually as well. And so there is a possibility that if you come across a large dose of, for example, parvovirus, that it will infect. Okay, so that is the critical period between 8 and 16 weeks. And so what I say to my clients is that you need to socialize the dog, because that is a critical period for socializing and mental development and behavioral development, appropriate mental and behavioral development. But you need to associate those dogs with not just with any Tom, Dick, or Harry in the park. You need to keep them away from high dog areas, but allow them to socialize with clean, healthy dogs. So at your house, you're having coffee with friends, dogs are hooling around in the living room, in the garden, what have you, that's fine. Okay, the risk of infection is low if those dogs are healthy. Or you go around to their place, or you meet on the beach. Beaches are great because they are swept clean twice a day, and kind of non-doggy areas. What you don't want to do is any dog that hasn't been vaccinated or it has no protection or unknown protection. You need to keep them away from high dog traffic areas, aka parks, in towns and cities. Okay, so if you vaccinate at 6 weeks, probably the vaccine is probably going to be mopped up by the maternally derived antibodies, MDA, maternally derived antibodies. If you vaccinate at 8 weeks, there may be some impact, but the maternally derived antibody is still present, and that may gobble up some of the vaccine, making that possibly less effective. The maternally derived antibodies reduce down to, in most dogs, most pups, very, very low at about 16 weeks, which means that if you give a vaccine at 16 weeks, the probability of that having maximum impact is optimum, is maximal, to repeat, maximal. So therefore, what they recommend is that if you're aiming to do a single either Parvo or Distemper, Parvo, and Hepatitis vaccine, you hang on until 16 weeks of age, when you have maximum chance of that having appropriate impact, and that single vaccine for that pup can last a lifetime. Okay, they don't say it in this report, but they have said it previously. And what you can do is just every year or 2 years or 3 years or what have you, you can take a blood test, a titre test, to check that the antibody levels are still good. Okay, so if at 16 weeks you give a vaccine, you see there's a syringe and needle right there. If you give it, then 49 out of 50 dogs will go pew and produce a massive, that blue line is the curvy blue line, a really nice active immune response, which will last for potentially years and years and years and years and years. Okay, I think that's a really, really important point to understand. If you don't understand it, I'm really happy to go through it. We can talk about your dog in particular, what age they are, or your pup. We can talk about what age they are, where they are on that graph, and what your options are with regard to vaccination. We're not going to be talking about homeopathic no-sodes this evening. We're just trying to keep it within the WSAVA guidelines. These are the titre tests, guys. The general name for these things is called a titre test. The company is called BioGal. You can see their logo, the triangle there, and they produce a titre test kit called vaccinate. Yeah, just so that you don't get confused with the logo. They do vaccinate tests for cats and for dogs. We're going to concentrate on dogs today. And this is what it looks like. Veterinary practices and veterinary laboratories can order these blocks. There are 12 columns of wells. You can see it there. Yeah, they're covered on the right hand side of the block, they're covered in foil, and those are broken in order to get to the reagent, the active ingredient within each block. And basically all you do is you add some serum from the blood sample there, just towards the right of center. You add some serum to the first well, and you allow that to react with the first reagent. You then put the little stick. You see this person's holding this kind of stick, looks like a pregnancy test, for example. You put it in the first and you leave it for a certain length of time, minute or two, and then you put it in the second reagent and you leave it there for a minute or two, and then you put it in the third reagent down and you leave it there for a minute or two. The whole process takes about 23 minutes. And what you get, if you notice on the dipstick there are 3 dots visible. There are actually 6 dots, and on this, the 0 response is right at the bottom. You can't really see it. And on this test, that is a 1 out of 6, which would be considered not immune, because the test is not accurate enough to differentiate between 0 and 1. But that's technicality. Don't worry about that. Basically, do that, and then you no, I'm lying. There's a test there, and then you get these 3 dots, and they change color. The deeper the color, the more immune you are. Okay, and they test for distemper, hepatitis, and parvo. It is years since I've done these, but that's it. So you know how with the pregnancy test, you either get a blue line or you don't. Well, this is similar, except what you have to do is you have to grade the color. And if you look on the left hand side, there's a thing that you can just about read called color scalar, and it's kind of shades of purple from really deep, almost black, to very light, and you can gauge whether the response is a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, or 4, a 5, or a 6. A 0 or a 1 is considered negative, and a 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are considered positive. That is demonstrating active immune response. So simple but faffy. I used to do surgeries back in the day. We'd get 36 dogs in, because at 3 times 12, these kits come in 12s, and we would do it. We would do, if you like, it's like having 12 pregnancy tests all in one go, and you'll do the first first well, and then the second well, and third well, and what have you. Faffy, but very effective. It's a very accurate test. So really, really good to do. Just in looking today at the availability, the CVC was the lab that I used to use, but they may not be continuing to offer VaxiCheck tests. And I found these Dragon Lab, I don't know them, but they're there. You can always have a chat with them. And all you do is you order a kit, you get your vet to take blood, and you send that blood, as it says, number 2, send a blood sample back to us, and then you get results, and they'll give you a certificate, which is always very nice to get a certificate for these things. So Dragon Lab, you'll be able to Google that, and very reasonable. Look at that, $44.99 at the moment. We're August 2025, and $44.99 is a very reasonable price indeed. There are practices in the big cities, for London, for example, who are going to charge you 350 quid for just titre testing for distemper, hepatitis, and parvo. And one of the options, you've got to discuss it with your vet, would be to get them to take a blood, and that you send off the blood to Dragon Labs, for example, and you can maybe save a few pennies. Please discuss it with the vet, and if they don't know about it, take in some information and say they are legit, and they will be able to do that test. They say that use it as peace of mind that your dog is protected, so you may not have to vaccinate. You could just do the titre test and have the certificate to demonstrate that your dog has got antibodies. Yeah, if you've got petrol in your tank, you don't need to go to the garage for a top up. Okay, that's the principle there. And so often what people will do is check immunity before vaccinating. If you've got a rescue dog and you don't know whether they need vaccinating or not, you can either guess, or you can vaccinate blind, which may be an unnecessary intervention, or you can just titre test. You take a blood and you say, and within 23 minutes, you know what the antibody status is for distemper, hepatitis, and parvo, and you can make an informed decision as to whether to vaccinate or not. Vaccinating should not be taken lightly. It is a significant event in a dog's life. It can have negative consequences, as our friend at the beginning of the show suggested. You can check the success of puppy vaccines. If you vaccinate the pup, you don't want them to be the 1 in 50 who doesn't get antibodies, and so you can do a test at about 20, 21, 22 weeks. And if you do a test with a mature animal, you can not vaccinate at all. Okay, you've got to make sure that your kennels or your boarding facility are happy with that, but they're usually happy if the vet says, yep, this is legit, and you've got a lovely crisp certificate to show them, then you can get by. I'm not anti-vaccine, but it's a very significant event. I have not vaccinated my children, for example, and that was a difficult decision, but one that I felt very passionate about because I didn't want to have to deal with potential side effects, for example. There you go, a little bit of personal information for you. I wasn't planning to tell you that. If you avoid unnecessary vaccination, you will avoid the small risk of adverse reactions, which has got to be a good thing. Okay, and by using the titre test, you can reduce chemical use, pharmaceutical use in the dogs. Yeah, again, pharmaceuticals are great, but the best pharmaceutical is the one that stays on the shelf. So next month, on the 18th of September, God, this year is flying by, isn't it? 7 p.m, The Gut Doctor on Vermex and the Vermex Facebook page, and on my page, and and I think this goes to YouTube as well, then you can find us there. We're going to be talking about leptospirosis vaccine. We're going to be talking about lepto2, lepto4. We're going to be talking about duration of immunity. We're going to be talking about titre tests. And spoiler alert, you can't do a meaningful titre test for leptospirosis vaccination. Yeah, because antibodies wane very quickly. So there you go. Let's have a look. What time is it? It's way over time as usual. Let's have a wee look. Let's have a wee look at some of the things. I'm not going to keep you guys. Lots of people in this evening. It's really great to see. It's a hot topic, and rightly so. If you want me to go through this again, you just have to email nickthompson@holisticvet.co.uk, and we can tailor make the advice for your pup, for your mature dog, for your new rescue dog, for whoever it might be. Okay. It's interesting stuff. I'm happy to go through it with you. So first thing I see there is Carol says, Medivet do titre testing for 60 quid. Amazing. Okay, that will probably be including blood test and everything. So great. Have a chat with them first. You just need to pick up the phone and give them a ring. So Carol, excellent. Thank you very much for that information. Rita is making is saying Herman Blue Grunwald. Greetings to Rita and to Xander. Great that you're with us today. Sounds like you guys are having a conversation. And Diana, she's a friend of the show. Let's just have a look at her comment and before we go. In your opinion, will a rabies vaccine have an especially negative effect on a 4-year-old dog with chronically elevated ALT only, no symptoms, clear ultrasound? Might be moving countries, but that means I need to vaccinate for rabies, which stops me from moving. Okay, so Diana, that's a great question. I see a lot of dogs these days, and often they are Frenchies, I have to say. Not always, but often. And they have an elevated ALT. ALT is an enzyme which is spilled when the liver is inflamed, unhappy. Okay, so it is used by vets to assess liver function. And over the last 5 years or so, we've seen dogs who've got a raised ALT, and they are absolutely perfect in every other sense. Whereas in the old days, if the ALT was raised, the alkaline phosphatase might be raised, and the other GGTs, for example, these might be raised as well, indicating there's some liver disease, which would suggest that the liver needed some support. These days, with the likes of S-adenosyl methionine and milk thistle and dandelion and these wonderful herbs, we can do a lot to support. And I've seen a lot of dogs who've got a raised ALT where over time we're able to bring down the ALT. So my thought, Diana, would be to treat that liver like mad before you vaccinate, because it says, and I haven't looked, but it likely says on the rabies vaccine, only vaccinate healthy dogs. Is that dog healthy with a raised ALT? That is a philosophical question, methinks. But personally, I would say try and fix the liver as much as you possibly can, and then you're in a better position to think about vaccination. If you have to vaccinate, I would be using the homeopathic remedy derived from the rabies vaccine you're going to use, in order to use it as a buffer against possible negative effects from the rabies vaccine. I hope that's helpful. Let's have a look. Yeah, you guys are having a great old chat there. So listen, so good to see so many people who are interested in this topic. It's very, very important. It is recorded. It will be on playback on my YouTube, which is Holistic Vet something, and it will be on my Facebook, which is Holistic Vet Limited Ltd, and it will be on the Vermex Facebook page. Loads of great information on the Vermix Facebook page and on their website. Check it out. Guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. It is, we are 15 minutes over as usual, but there you go. It's one of those things. Greetings to you. I hope this has been more helpful than confusing. I've enjoyed preparing this stuff for you, and I hope that you're much more clear now. But if you do want to give me a shout, then please do. There's a little bit of sunshine, and I'm just going to go and sit in the sun for 5 minutes before getting on with my evening. It's just the end of the summer holidays. Kids will be at school in 10 days or so. So all change. We'll speak soon. And we'll see you, I think it was the 18th of September, and we're going to talk about leptospirosis vaccination then. Thanks to Laura for looking after me. That's really great.